Here we are in the slow movement of the Archduke Trio. I'm going to skip ahead to places I know I need to remind myself of. First would be measure 6, 7, 8, 9, measure 29. That's the first variation. Okay, so I really want to make sure that I can both be accurate and have a sense of ease about it. This is so decorative, lovely. So I don't want it crystalline, I don't want it Bachian, and yet it's so easy to get lazy in the gesture and then to start have the notes noodling around. So I want precision, but I don't want it to sound precise. For practice purposes, I need to know what it feels like and sounds like, and then I can modify, make the edges fuzzier. But I do have to be aware, particularly I notice I have some groupings that I'm not yet aware of. I seem to have fiddled with my groupings. So, this is a change for me. I have an old fifth finger. In other words, I've played it with this movement of my left hand to reduce the number of groups, which I rather like, but I changed it last time to move to the second inversion of the D chord. And I know last time I liked that, so I've got to try to convince myself one way or the other. So my left hand is leading my thought here. Which brings up another issue. I have been playing a first inversion chord in the right hand. Instead, I could shift in my right hand, going 4-1, then 5-2-3-1. I find that more pleasurable because the hands are mirroring one another better. So, a new thought for the moment. Do I want a fingering that gets me to the bottom? The only way I could do that comfortably would be to put in a second finger and the last D. So, maybe. A lot of twos. Or do I just want to look or deliver my left hand to the G? I don't want to overthink this. I do like this new decision. I'm wondering about the same thing I did in the first statement. Do I want to move my right hand where I haven't moved it in the past? I've in the past used the first inversion chord and the second inversion chord. And it hasn't matched the left, but it hasn't mattered. That symmetry is strangely appealing. It wouldn't work here at all because the topography of the keyboard demands that the right hand be comfortable. misled by the beaming. Octave, octave, octave. Rather than 2 on here, I'm going to put 4 on the C sharp in my left hand. It just plants so much better with a lesser motion in the arm. Make the leap a little more comfortable. And I'm going to put maybe 4th finger at the top of my right hand. 4th, whoops, no I am not because I misread it. See if I can play it quietly. I'm going to shift here. It's a little bit easier to pivot around my thumb than my 2nd finger, so the movement inward gives me room to get my hand back up to the E minor root position. So, whoops. I think I like that. Give myself room. There's no reason to be frantic. There's nobody else playing. I want a different color anyway. Makes it a little different. It means most of the time the octave position is best. Octave, octave. Problem with this octave is I don't much like the sensation in my hand, although it's the same as on top. I think I can live with it. The simplicity of it makes it worth it. Here and here and here and here and here. I've done some fiddly things here with my fingering. Okay, let's go back. My hand doesn't want to do that. Most people's don't. And 5-3, although okay, still doesn't make me plan my hand very nicely on those 2 notes. I'd much rather have 1-3, but of course, then I'd have to move, or 2-4. Let's see. In which case, instead of having that octave grouping, I'd be going octave, 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 come back, and then moving my hand. Is that worth it? I think it is worth it. So I'll draw a line and write some numbers. Octave, 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 +1. Alas, I drew a line in the wrong place. The line should be after that chord to indicate, that hand position, that's all part of the same hand position. So octave, 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 octave. I like here it's even better because I don't have to go down an octave. Actually, I can even go one note further because of that. So, and now I'm understanding a lot more why I put 4 here and then moved my hand. It was for comfort. So, octave. It's not familiar. Octave, move back down. If I go to 1, 2, I have to go to 1, 3 here in the left hand. This is in 31, 2, 3, 4, 5, 36, 7, 8, 9. To 1, 3. Or I could go 1, 3 to 2, 4 and feel a little bit better about the F sharp, but be a little further away from down here. Or I could just go 1, 2, and then be that much closer to the A later on. So many choices. It's not fair quite experimenting only with my hands alone because maybe coordination will be an issue too. So. I need to remind my left hand, it has the lead there. At least in terms of doing something special, it has to leap down more in an unexpected spot. And that's more here and good. Okay, here. Last 4 together, and then I start. It works out melodically and it works out physically. And then I start. Okay, it's not that my fingering is all together. I'm going 1, 2, and then 2, 3, and then 1, 3, and 2, 4. It's not all one hand position, but there's a sense of comfort and gesture in it. So the grouping can be by hand or by finger closeness or by gesture. That's good. So let's go back. Yes. Let me add a bit can be, they're used for completely different purposes. One to finish this hand group, one to start this hand group. second on A, it gets me to the C sharp. This is in measure 45. Tricky, but every little decision makes a difference in terms of the sense of ease and passivity of that part, which it needs to be. So I'm going to skip on to 65, which is where the variation where I'm doubling my partners one at a time. Minor chord way down to the bottom, 5-4-2. The 5-4-2 does well to get me places, but it's tough just to get there. So I have to remind myself, if I'm going to use that fingering, what's good about it is the fifth finger. So I'm actually, if I go to thumb on the preceding one, well, I have actually lots of time. It's silly to care. But I have F sharp here, and then the comfort doesn't come from being able to grab F sharp minor in my hand. I don't like that. But coming from A to C sharp and D, that's great. So if the F sharp is in isolation in my head, then it's really easy. So that's what I'm going to do. And I do like turning the preceding one to thumb. It just, I don't have to think as hard later on. So let me go back. Fourth finger, just to get my arm to move my hand in on that A and make it easy to control. I don't want to repeat the second, fifth if I can help it. Oh, that's right. Thumb on E here, thus making it easier to get to the fifth on A. But again, with my arm moving me out. Into the thumb, out on the fifth, and then 4, 3, 2, 1. And this, so it's real easy. The thumb is important in terms of its placement. Moves me in so I can come out on this simple arpeggio in a simple scale. And then, so. And then this, I like it. I will skip to measure 80. Whoa. Now these double thirds I have written as 1-3. Of course, the organic pliability here is putting your thumb on that C sharp when your left hand, when your third finger is on A. Not pleasant for anyone, not that pleasant, or maybe not that unpleasant. But would I rather do something else? The parallelism of those three groups is pretty nice. I could use an inside-outside finger. In other words, I could go 2, 4, 1, 5. it's certainly conceptually easier, even though it's minutely, physically harder. So it's also not the primary voice, but the experiment was worth it, but I think I'll stick with my original. 1, 3, 1, 3. Yeah. The other is just not worth it, even though it has promise. Now, all these repeated note ones, this next variation runs the real risk of being too loud with my partners. At least luckily, the first measure and a half is alone. So. Especially on this piano. So. Boy, that's loud. Less loud. I'm missing out holding on. That makes it louder. But it's not. See, luckily, those are the areas where my partners are playing. So smart Beethoven. 4-2. It's just a decision that was never articulated, at least not in writing. Oh, I love it. It's one of those chords you just cannot read. Well, it's D and F double sharp and A sharp. So it looks an awful lot like a G minor chord. Sounds an awful lot like a G minor chord. Doesn't look anything like a G minor chord. So a reminder that it's a 4-2 chord, 4-2-1. Helps me with reading it. I could also, of course, write G minor just to show its equivalence. Okay, so I think I'm going to go 4-2 in the crossed hand grouping here because using the long fingers I can stay further out, and the relationship between the arms is not as close or difficult as it would be if I went 1-2, for example. So I don't even know if it's something I've used that way, but it's good. And as a reminder, I may use it everywhere. 4-2, 4-2, 2-4. Although that works. Very nice. Again, luckily, Beethoven doesn't demand that I get there too quickly. I'm alone. I'm alone. Because it's a really awkward chord for me. So I use it as a start. bit more, and then I like 5 going to 4. It keeps the hand compact and relaxed, and I tend not to try to rely too much on the finger change, but rather just on the arm. Yes, and here, even I could go, oh, here I could go actually 4 to 5, 4 to 5 there. Trying to practice without thinking. It's a little bit difficult. See if 4 still works up here. It's interesting because 5 works better here than it worked down the octave lower because of the angle of the arm and hand. But for simplicity, probably keep the same fingering. Subito. Where the right hand is the offbeat melody, the left hand has all the motion. Choose where I change my hand position. Trustworthy, simple fingering in the right hand, so I don't have to think about it. Maybe I'll do 2-1 to get there, 5-3 to continue on the G, B on 115. I certainly don't need a fifth finger here on the C sharp when I'm going into a second inversion triad. That's much easier to rely on. The more comfortable hand position, it comes right up. Can't do that all the time. Most of the time I need fifths. Okay, sneaky Beethoven again. All these patterns, these descending triads. Then the third note this time goes up. Second finger, whoops, my left hand on E, then I have 2, 3, 1. It's very comfortable up there, even though I'm not there. It's worth it for the sake of the simplicity and security and clarity of that jazz. So. Isolate. Notes. It's not right. Just 3 notes. Beethoven may never have used a finger arpeggio fingering or 7th fingering, but I like it there. Very listy. So, nice. 1, 2, 3. I'm trying to keep my left hand quiet here and just move it by the triads. That's really nice instead of worrying about all the octaves. 3 down, 3 down. Getting down here. Picks the arm, delivering the hand to the 5th finger each time. Same as, boom chick basses. The whole arm moves to deliver the 5th and support that finger. Likely to have to need to look on a white note. Like this one. Being aware of this diagonal makes a big difference. Further down I go, the more diagonally my arm moves. From my center to where I'm going. Here. Certainly not a legato fingering, because this is the ultimate, most comfortable fingering for these 3 notes. And probably 1, 2, 3 for me. This is the most comfortable fingering for these 3 notes. So I simply deliver my arm, my hand with my arm. I get there, and then I move up. So not just the A is, of course, the same, but because I'm going to go beyond that, and got to favor my thumb afterwards, I need a slightly different angle. Or I could do it the same way and then adjust later. Because I hadn't written one, I have to keep thinking about it. Now I've written it. You notice that a completed gesture doesn't always sound good. The dissonance is still there. But your body doesn't care about dissonances unless it be physical dissonances. From there to there. And back to the theme. Let's see what else happens. Let's love wonderful nature. These simple white note intervals are played with a reasonable fingering. And I have to take time, and I have to remind my partners, I'm playing triplets, they're playing against me, so 2's against 3, so I'm not quite there where they are, but I may need time to negotiate those things. We'll find out. Mostly it's a visual thing. I gotta look ahead. Look to the G. Look to the F sharp, etc. So, it's a little hard to do it and say it. G major. Well, it's an E7, E minor 7, so left hand plays E minor, right hand plays G major. From an instructional point of view, a descriptive point of view, that's more useful to my body to tell myself those distinct patterns than it is to tell myself that that's perhaps an E minor 7th. You know, it's a G chord in the various inversions in the right hand, and it's an E minor in the left hand. That's what those hands need. So this happens fairly quickly, and I've got to be aware easier for me to grab with the 2 on the black note F sharp, D major. I have to know myself. White note octaves, especially expressive, it sure helps to watch what you're doing and also to group them in accordance with what makes most sense. For example, reapproaching this B, which is far away from everything else, and then the E. So this group is obvious. Doing that is a waste of effort, and it's not expressive. Last movement, which we'll do later.